This is the Dover Download Podcast. My name is Christopher Parker, and for the past 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working with, learning from, and talking to a variety of volunteer, staff, and community members. This podcast explores conversations, activities, and a variety of policies and programs which exist here in Dover to improve the community in one way or another. Here on the podcast, we like to highlight projects, programs, and activities that are central to the community here in Dover. Today, we're going to have a tangential effect on that by highlighting a person who's got some activities, projects, and overall community support that I think the community is aware of but needs to learn more about. Chef Evan Hennessey joins us here on the Dover Download Podcast. Welcome, Evan.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So you're a local star, I'll say. Or just a local guy.
I'm a local guy.
I was going to say, which would you prefer?
The guy.
All right. So you grew up in Dover.
I did.
Your mom was a French teacher. I remember that from high school.
Correct. Yeah.
Beyond that, what should people know?
Yeah, I mean, I graduated in Dover High School, sort of left the community to go gain some work experience, which is excellent. I worked in Boston, New York, and Chicago. And then I've always wanted to be here whenever I sort of established my career. And I love the area, not just, being in Dover and the community itself. And I love small towns. And I think Dover really encapsulates that as a small town as itself, but also as a really budding, growing community. And that, to me, that speaks to my heart. It's great proximity to, to the ocean, to the mountains, where I spend as much time as I possibly am allowed to.
Yep.
Up there. And then, to be able to establish stages in the living room. And now I've got an upcoming adventure coming very soon this spring.
Did you grow up cooking at home? Was it something you stumbled into after high school? Was it something that you were destined for? What's the story there?
I guess I'd like to say all of those.
Yeah.
I did not necessarily grow up cooking, but my parents did. Yeah, and I do have fond memories of like Julia Child cookbooks, sort of out, and Jacques and Julia on PBS and whatnot. And being that, as you referenced, and my mother being a French teacher, that a lot of the food at that point was, of course, French. And so I definitely had exposure to it at a younger age. And my mother will verify this story that the first thing I ever learned how to cook was a grilled cheese sandwich, and it was a damn good one.
Yeah.
And from there, I originally went to school to draw. I wanted to be an animator for Disney.
Okay.
And that was back before, computers got a hold of things, and I wanted to do things literally with a pencil. And then as computers took over the age of animation, my sort of, love for that faded very quickly. And I came back to Dover and started cooking. I started as a prep cook and a dishwasher at Newick's. So there's a throwback for a lot of people right there. Yeah.
Is there a grilled cheese on the stage's menu?
Oh, God.
So why not?
There probably should be, now that I've said that.
You could save it for the new venture.
We'll save it for the new venture with it. Yeah. Or just come over on a Sunday afternoon, and I'll cook you guys up something.
I'm curious, as someone who likes to cook and has realized that, no offense to our restaurant community, but you can make very good food at home. If you can follow a recipe, if you can follow someone else's guidance, you can make good food at home. There's so much benefit to going out. Trust me, I love eating out. But as someone who has become as creative as you have, and as someone who has moved into that world of must-go restaurants, how do you stop yourself and say, that dish is done, that's the dish we're going to serve?
Wow, that's such a good question. It's a really hard one too. We'll start from the beginning of it. I think a lot more people are cooking at home. I mean, given the pandemic, I think everybody and their mother had a sourdough starter going.
I think people learned how to wash their hands.
The things that came out of that. And so, and again, with all the information that's out on the internet, whatnot, everybody can try and learn, and which is amazing. And to me, that's such a great thing, and I appreciate more people wanting to cook at home, learning to cook at home. And I think that makes it so that their want for access for food, and good food at that, continues to grow. For me, now to go into the second part, for me, it's sort of like, how do you know the painting is done?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is just intuition. I think if you've been painting long enough, or cooking long enough, or building long enough, or writing long enough, at some point, when the story is just right, when to put the period at the end of the sentence. And I've definitely created dishes that I've had to edit. And I think over the course of 30 years of cooking, that is one of the biggest things that I have learned as a cook, is how to simplify. And that kind of goes into what Topolino will be about. But it really is interesting, is like, you talk about the arc of your of your career. And I remember as a younger cook, you're growing up and you're trying to put your entire career, everything you've learned on one dish every single time. Every dish is everything I know, right? It's every technique, every trick, every this, every that. And it makes for this way over the top, super confusing, over convoluted mess of an idea. And you put that down and you look at it, you're like, yeah, that's awesome. And then you send it out to the dining room, the guests are like, I don't get it. And then there becomes that sort of interesting battle. But what you do is like, as you mature as a cook, is you learn to simplify. You learn, and I guess that's kind of a life metaphor, right? Is you learn what is important, what you actually need on the plate, and what you need to deliver the flavor, to deliver the idea, but also to deliver the experience that you're trying to get. We as cooks we're nurturers. We take care of people. Are we artists? Absolutely. We're able to bring that element into our cooking, which is amazing. And for me, I'm able to bridge those two loves right there. But I think when we can really simplify and do what cooking was originally meant to be, I think that's an amazing thing.
Interesting from my perspective, there are two types of dining experiences, and I'm sure there's multiple others. But for me, there's the tried and true. I want a hash and eggs, and I want it to taste like I've always had hash and eggs. So I go to a diner or I go someplace that that. And then there's places, restaurants like your own, where I don't go with a preset of, I hope they have a burger on the menu. I go with the idea that whatever the chef is creating is done to be delicious. So I'm like, unless there's something I'm allergic to, or unless there's something that I just know I can't handle, I'm up for anything.
Yeah.
Because the experience is that creativity versus I need some comfort food. I need to have mac and cheese. I need to have that flavor that I'm expecting.
I think you touched on something which is very important to me. And again, speaking to like the growing process of maturity as a cook, is flavor and food creates memories. You kind of touched on it a little bit. I bet you can, if you take a second, you can remember. Anybody listening, you can take a second and remember like something that you remember very specifically as a child. You know what it tastes like. You remember it's almost, it creates more of a feeling and a flavor, right? And then you take that with you throughout your years. And then as you go into a restaurant, to use your hash and eggs, is like, that is a memory for you. The first time you had, a flannel hash, and you remember the first time you had an egg that had a runny yolk to it, and you remember those things, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know what that is. And that stems all the way up into sort of the higher creative levels that we work with at Stages, where it's like we create memories of the food. And we've had multiple guests on multiple occasions eat something, and it's, for us, it's constructed as, balancing flavor and constructing and layering, but it hits on these almost childhood memory notes of beets, for example. Like, oh, I remember when my mother would make beets, or I would have this, and for them to experience that in food, man, that's what cooking, that's a huge thing. That's what it is.
So how do you come to embrace the emotional and the intangible side of cooking?
It's a great question.
I only got two more great questions.
You get two more great questions
for the year.
Then we're going to put them all into this. If you think about it, cooking is emotional. It can be methodical and robotic, sure. But I guess I come from the side of it is emotional. I consider myself to be a deeply emotional person. And I feel that intrinsically through everything that I do, my connection to a lot of stuff. And that to me is like, that's built-in emotion. That's who we are as people. And so when I'm able to channel that cooking, then that goes into each dish. And actually, to go back to one of your earlier good questions, was that, that's how when a dish is done. It's like when you can connect to little pieces of it and you can kind of almost feel it, bits and pieces. And it's like, yes, that's a great idea.
Stages is a success, and it's got its own world and it's got a following. And I think that it is its entity unto itself. At the same time you have that, you also have this world of Chopped and things of that nature. How do you balance that?
It's literally just like different departments of my life, and they all connect in a lot of different ways. And it's, one opportunity opens the next, and one door leads to another. And like you said, it's like, I'm very thankful that Stages, we're going to touch 14 years, coming up this spring, which I don't even know how we got there sometimes. But yeah, I guess Stages created a lot of our opportunity. If I could take one step back from there, that it was a huge leap of faith in something that I've believed in. that many years ago. And all the way up to the fact where the creativity got noticed, the precision got noticed, the experience got noticed, and then it opened up opportunities like Chopped. And I guess what that provided me was it opened a door into a world of competition that I didn't know I enjoyed as much as I did. And I'm definitely a competitive person. The bigger the challenge, the bigger the risk, the harder something is, the more I want it. And not because I want to necessarily win it or get the trophy or anything. It's because I thrive on that high level of experience.
You don't want to settle.
And I don't want to settle. Yeah. And maybe that's, part adrenaline junkie. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's how it gets tapped a lot of times, but to me, that's not what it is. I'm not looking for a high, it's very much of, I enjoy the process. I enjoy the experience. I enjoy the trail to the summit of the mountain. I love all of that. And I love to be able to push and see what I'm capable of. And I truly believe that, I myself, we as people are capable of way more than we give ourselves credit for or think that we can. And there's that whole thing of, life starts in the edge of your comfort zone, right? Where it's like, I'd rather just leap straight off that cliff and see what I'm really capable of. And that's where Chopped came in.
Is there a meal or an ingredient that you find more complex or uncomfortable to cook with or to create from?
Break that into two things. Complex, I think, is a lot of stuff. I love herbs. I think that they can play so many different levels. And I think that I'll take mint, for example, which is one of my favorite herbs. And in a lot of cuisine, it's like, oh, it goes with dessert, right? And I would argue that that's possibly incorrect. More cuisines around the world have mint in more savory applications than they do in sweet applications.
Interesting.
If you look at Indian cuisine or Thai cuisine, right? We're in a lot of Asian cuisines, actually, for that matter, where mint is put in Spanish as well. As you're seeing, God, I just keep going on. It just went straight to my point, right? Whereas mint is put in a lot more savory applications. So therefore, it speaks to its complexity as a flavor, as an ingredient. Okay. Cooked, fried, dried, fresh, however you want it to be. Difficulty, almost the same thing. To use them correctly is pretty hard.
Okay. When was the last time that you, whether were served something or read about something and thought, oh my God, someone figured that out? I got to try that.
I think it might not necessarily be a dish in specific. I think it was opening my eyes more to the possibilities of what you can do with food process. Meaning that there's a gentleman that I worked with actually twice in New York, and he went on to work in Copenhagen and then opened his own restaurant out there, and he's still out in that direction. And he had this great saying, and it was, there's no such thing as a byproduct, only another product. And that, I think, just really opened my eyes to how do you take something and just keep making it and keep making it and keep making it?
It's interesting to think that way because I will always say that I can follow a recipe. I'll read something and I'll say, that sounds great, I'm going to make it. My wife is the type who opens up the fridge and says, what do we have and what can I make?
I'm more like your wife.
And absolutely. I that's not a shock to me. And she always said that she finds it funny that I am a cookbook or a recipe person because I love systems and I love tinkering and saying, well, it worked that way. What if we did it this way? And she said, that's the new product as opposed to byproduct method of saying, just because we always flame grilled it this way, what if we did it and then, or she's like, someone thought at some point, if you boil then bake, you're going to have a bagel. You took bread and said, if we twisted it a little, or the beer idea, someone thought if we did this, and that in her mind, and it sounds like, again, well, you've said you agree, but it sounds like you're on the same wavelength of nothing is ever done. You can always tweak. You can always find a different way.
Yeah.
I'm amazed to see, you mentioned New York. I was down there Thanksgiving and walked by a taco Indian place. Basically, they take naan and make a taco shell and then fill it with, and I was blown away.
Yeah.
It's who would have thought about that? I mean, I'm sure it's been a fusion thing for years, and it gets to your point about flavors and the multiple cultures that embrace flavors in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the cool part about where we are in a culinary landscape right now. For all of this national talk about being insular, we are so varied and welcoming when it comes to taste bud.
Oh, very much so. And I think too, to kind of to your point, where it's all great things are a product of multiple failures, and then us as a society, opening up our fear of failure, sort of making it acceptable to fail, making it acceptable to try. And, to go back to the recipes, right? So it's like, if your soul is like, I have to put in exactly an eighth of a teaspoon, which by the way, nobody has that measure.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody has an eighth of a teaspoon of anything.
Right.
It's a pinch. Just put a pinch of salt, into the recipe but you look at it a lot of times that if you don't put in exactly that eighth of a teaspoon, it's going to be wrong. Right. And the answer is no, it's not, and you can try it. And at the end, just, if it didn't work, cool. Like, hopefully nobody died,
So my hybrid of cooking is, recently there was something, I was making a honey garlic hoisin sauce, and we didn't have enough honey. And for some reason I thought, I'm going to use more ginger, because I had extra ginger. And everyone that ate it, and I said, this is better than what you normally do. What did you? And it's the same sort of thing. I don't think that we ever have errors or mistakes. We have learning experiences. And something is not a failure if you learn from it and either embrace it because it's a newfound thing, or say, I tried it and I'm going to go back to the other way, or I'm going to continue to tweak it differently, whether that's a life experience or whether that's a cooking experience. I think it's the same thing. We get very stuck into pass or fail.
Yeah.
When the reality is live.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
I mean, you're walking along the road and you trip, you're like, that's it, I'm never walking again. I mean, that's not how it goes. But again, think about you mentioned chopped. I mean, that's very much how it is. Like, when you walk into an arena like that, it's like, you have to 100% be ready to fail.
Yeah.
Like, if you are not set with that, if you have not sat with that idea and been okay with it, then don't walk into that arena, because you've got a very small amount of time to try what you feel is right in that moment and go with it.
We've talked about your restaurant opportunities. We've talked about Chopped. One of the things I think is sort of a hidden passion of yours is your community involvement. And you mentioned enjoying Dover because it's a small community. I want to explore that a little bit more, because you do a lot of behind the scenes stuff, is my impression.
Yeah. And it's interesting is, like, I'm going to sort of chalk this up to getting older and hopefully more mature. That's pretty arguable. But I think that when I kind of look at what it is that I enjoy and where I feel I am in life and in this world, and stages itself or Chopped or anything else like that, is like, these have created opportunities, have created platforms and opportunities for me to do the things that I feel are good or right, or what I want to give energy to. And I realize, going back a million years before the corporate industry destroyed restaurants, that restaurants were there for the community. Think of Cheers, right? As everybody knows your name, right? I mean, that's basically what restaurants should be. They're a community cornerstone. They're a hub. You go in and, and you feel warm, you feel welcome, like you feel like you should be, not a machine. And that isn't just inside those four walls. That is the extension of that. That is the family of it. That is everything that it touches. And that is me, and I think that when I have something that's as established as Stages, and then being able to open up the opportunity that they say that Chops has provided, with doing things for the library. I mean, like, that's amazing. That is me taking the 30 plus years of my career and putting them to work and putting that energy and that time into things that not only do I want to, but I feel are highly useful to our community, to our society, to our world as a whole. And it's my little mark that I want to look back at, and it's very important.
So speaking of the library, you are doing a fundraiser coming up for the library. You want to tell the listener a little bit about that?
I am. So if you were listening before, you heard about my Chopped experiences. So we're going to channel all of that into a super high stress, high stakes. I'm going to be sweating. You guys are going to be sweating. It's going to be incredible event to build up for the expansion happening over at the library there, which, the library itself, again, growing up in Dover, is like, I remember story hour. I remember the children's section. I remember sitting in the stacks. I remember hiding in the stacks. I remember doing homework, not doing homework, so I have great memories of the place, and to be able to do something supportive for a place that means a lot to me, I'm super thankful for.
And that is January 27th?
Yeah. So we will be streaming it live online. There are tickets available, I believe. If not, they will be soon. That you can come for the viewing party at Chaplin, Maine. Good friends over there. And afterwards, after I sweat and hopefully make it through these mystery baskets, which you guys don't kill me too much on, then I'm going to run up to Chapel in Maine and join you guys for kind of an after party thing.
For the listener, you can find out more information and buy tickets through the Friends of the Library website. We'll put some links in the notes of this episode, but that sounds like a cool event.
I'm excited.
My wife and I are going to join the Chapel in Maine crowd and look forward to seeing you sweat and chatting with you after, and certainly enjoying Chapel in Maine, which is a great community space.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm very happy that they're there and good friends over there running that operation. And I think that's another great part of where I am in my career is I can look around and I'm surrounded by other friends doing great things, as well.
One of the things that strikes me here in the community is that not many restaurants that are competing with each other. You're all part of a restaurant community as opposed to how dare you take that customer, I want that customer. It seems like most of the restaurants are part of the same guild. They're part of the same friend circles. They all seem to get along and chat with each other, which is, I think, a pretty cool thing that most people might not realize.
It's true. I actually have a couple text threads, but I have one main one, which includes like Nikki from Stock and a handful of other chefs around the area as well. And it's anything from like, hey, does anybody have a POS system that they recommend? Or hey, like I need a dishwasher this weekend, or hey, my bartender is looking for extra hours. Does anybody have that? Or, like I just want to complain about something, and you've got an audience that is willing to listen to you. And, to have that level of support with peers and colleagues in this area is great. I mean, it makes it so that, if I'm busy, then, that's awesome. And then, people say, it's like, oh, where do you like to go eat? Where do you like to recommend? It's like, well, have you guys been over to Stock? Have you been up to Chapel in Maine? Have you, I love to be able to recommend my friends and again, it's just whether it's you call it a tide rising, all ships rise, thing or whatever it is. But it's way better energy in the industry, which is hard enough as it is. We don't need to bring in that level of cutthroat competition. Let's just, I don't know, maybe it's a sandbox. We'd all just play and get along.
We've touched on a bunch of different things today, but I want to make sure if there's anything you wanted to add, anything that the listeners should know that you want to get out there, that as we wrap up, you get an opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you so much for having me. The thing I do want to add in there one more time, or at least another time, I guess, is Topolino. 9 River Street coming in this spring. I don't have an opening date yet, so anybody that's listening, please do not email me that question. I do not know it yet. We are working so hard behind the scenes to bring this wonderful concept to you. Casual Mediterranean, roughly 70 seats, table height, 13 at the bar. We have a patio right on the river, and that's just simple, good flavors, good food. We've got a great idea of a community sort of merchandise space where we're going to bring in things where it's tinned fish from a friend of mine, salt from up in Maine. The gentleman that makes the custom knives for me out of Vermont will be selling those. A handful of different community products, and we're really excited for it. And you can get Topolino t-shirts. We'll have those available as well. But yeah, I'm really excited for that, and I hope you guys come join me when we open.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. And I appreciate you coming out today and having this chat with us.
Yeah.
Enjoy the day.
Thanks, Chris.
Dover has a wealth of history in its over 400 years of existence. Coming up, Mike Gillis is going to share some of that history with us.
If you enjoy or participate in winter sports, Dover certainly has plenty to offer. Hockey and ice skating, the Dover Ice Arena has you covered. When there's enough snow, you can sled at Garrison Hill Park. And for those who want to brave the elements, Wheelan Pond offers a place for pond hockey, skating, or ice fishing. The foundation for many of the winter sports options now available was set more than 100 years ago. This week in 1923, the Dover Chamber of Commerce, formed just 3 years earlier, hosted a meeting to discuss how to expand winter sports in the city. The meeting, which had previously been postponed due to several snowstorms, was intended to continue a conversation about whether Dover should have a hockey team and whether skiing should be allowed at Garrison Hill, including the construction of a ski jump. Many in the community had also determined there was a need for a dedicated rink for community ice skating. These efforts would eventually lead to a ski jump and park at Garrison Hill. A rope tow allowed people to ski down Garrison Hill and catch the rope tow back to the, quote, summit. The ski area would close later in the 1960s. For many years, there was a public skating rink located in what is now the parking lot behind the public library. That rink would eventually close to make way for parking, but the Dover Ice Arena opened in the 1970s and offered ice skating under a roof. The original ice arena was nothing more than a sheet of ice under a metal roof and surrounded by a chain-link fence. The ice arena's popularity, though, especially for area hockey teams and leagues, would only grow. By the 1980s, walls and a locker room were added to the arena. This week, in 1999, a study was released that found sufficient demand to support a second ice rink at the Dover Arena. The City Council had previously tabled a decision on a $3 million expansion project as part of the Capital Improvements Program, requesting more information about the need for a second sheet of ice. The study, by VSC Sports Consultants, completed Phase 1 of a study spearheaded by the Arena Commission and the Recreation Department. A workshop on the issue was planned for May of that year. By the next year, in 2000, the construction of a new rink was underway. The new Holt rink was named after former UNH men's hockey coach Charles Holt. The $4.2 million project, which also included a complete reconstruction of the Robert H. Foster rink, was completed in 2001. Today, the ice arena remains in demand, but not just in the winter. You'll find hockey games, ice skating, and even the popular rock night all year round.
Thanks for listening to the Dover Download this week. If you like what you heard, subscribe through your favorite podcast aggregator. And if you have something you want to hear a topic on, let us know. Finally, this is just one of the many ways we share information about the city of Dover. You can subscribe to the Dover Downloads email newsletter every week or other newsletters that we have by going to the City of Dover homepage, www.dover.nh.gov. Have a great week.